students. Today we will discuss about the individual drive and group drive. This class is useful for diploma students, 5th sem electrical branch. And today we will discuss about and compare between individual drive and group drive. So the number of machines which can be driven in a individual drive machine and tool is driven by a separate motor, so that can be called as a individual drive. But individual drive have some limitations, and they also have some advantages as compared to the group drive. As comparison to a group drive, individual drives are advantages in some cases, but in majority of cases this group drive machines or group drive systems are more beneficial. So let us understand through by example or advantages of group drive. So the advantages of the group drive are the initial cost. So the cost which is associated with its installment or the initial cost is very low as compared to the individual drive. So cost wise it is effective. Similarly, sequence of operation, the group drive system is useful because all the operation are stopped simultaneously. Because uh, if the machine which is the machine which is of the higher rating, which is employed to run all the other machines coupled to this main machine, is shut down or due to any reason it has been stopped. So as a result, what will happen, all the other motors connected to this machine will be under shutdown. So this is sequence of operation. So under sequence of operation we should know that it is useful because all the operation are stopped simultaneously. Space requirement, see, in any arrangement the space requirement is very important. So it also is very important as we compare the group drive and individual drive. In group drive the space required is less as compared to individual drive. So it is also helpful for us because it will take less space to accommodate. Now the maintenance cost is low. It requires little maintenance as compared to individual drive. So the disadvantages of group drive, the initial cost might be low, but the group drive has is less, but yet this system is not used extensively because of this disadvantages. So what are these disadvantages? Power factor, group drive has low power factor. Efficiency group drive system when used, and it if all the machines are not working together, the main motor shall be at a very reduced load. Similarly, the reliability uh, of the main motor fails, the whole industry will come to standby. If all the group drive or in a group drive, if the main motor fails, then whole of the industry will come to standstill. The another point is flexibility. Such arrangement is not possible in group drive. That is, this arrangement is not suitable for the place where flexibility is the prime factor. So it cannot be shifted from one place to another. Since the main motor is connected to several other motors, we cannot change its position. So where flexibility is the prime importance, the shifting of this motor is not possible. So here the individual drive system is dominant. Similarly, the speed factor, group drive does not provide constant speed. There is a fluctuation of speed, and this is one of the disadvantages. The types of machine, group drive is not suitable for driving heavy machines such as crane, lift, hoist. So for medium loads, these drives are suitable. If we will run a heavy load such as crane, lifts or hoist, this system will be not working in a good way. Now, what are the advantages of individual drive? Individual drive gives desired operation as each machine is driven by its own individual motor. Individual motor works at good power factor, efficiency of the system is high, individual drive is more reliable, machine may be fitted wherever convenient, more useful where constant speed is required. Individual drive is most suitable for driving heavy machineries such as lifts, hoist, cranes, etc. Now, the selection of motor. How to select a motor? The selection of the motor is based upon some certain conditions. So, what are the conditions? So, condition under which the motor is supposed to work is the first criteria. The second one is your type of load the motor is supposed to handle. Accordingly, the factors which are considered for selection of motor for a particular service are as below. So, what are the characteristics? Electrical characteristics. Under electrical characteristics, we will find running characteristics, starting characteristics, speed control, its braking characteristics. So, these four are essential for your electrical characteristics. Similarly, for mechanical characteristics, we have type of enclosure, type of bearings, transmission of drive, noise level. So these four are under your mechanical characteristics. So it is needless to say the type of enclosure depends upon the environment where it is used. Suppose it is a very dusty area, accordingly the enclosure will be selected. If it is a very dry place, then the enclosure will be different. So it depends upon the environmental conditions. Also the type of bearing. If the load is high or the load is light also, so we can choose proper bearing so that it can work efficiently with a longer span of life. Transmission of drive. Similarly, for transmission of drive also and for noise level also, these mechanical characteristics are selected. Now, size and rating of motor. The rating of the motor, whether the motor is to be used continuously or intermittently or for variable loads. So students, there are some motors whose working period is almost 24 hours per day. So if it is working 24 hours, so the kind of motor, ordinary motor cannot withstand. So we have to choose special kinds of motor. Also there are some kind of motors which are required to run intermittently. That means suppose you require some operation, then only it will work, otherwise it may take rest. So we have to choose what is our requirement, and accordingly we have to choose the motor. Now the cost, which is very important in fact, because the capital cost, the running cost, these two will decide how and what kind of motor you will select. Now, losses, power factor, maintenance and depreciation, etc. So we also have to consider its losses, its power factor, its maintenance and its depreciation. So all those factors should be considered. It can thus be seen that choice of electric motor for a driven or a given drive includes a large number of factors, and although in a particular case some of these may be definitely fixed. So we have to consider several number of factors while selecting a motor. So let us now discuss about its running characteristics. The operating characteristics of various types of loads are different. So students, it depends upon the operation, and accordingly the loads, the operating characters will be different. Some machine require constant speed while other machines require it may or may not be a constant speed. So where this constant speed is required irrespective of your load, then what will happen, or your torque characteristics, and some require a variable speed control. Therefore it is desired to know about the operation or the operating or running characteristics of various types of motors. Of various types of motor. The electrical behavior of a motor when running under normal condition can be explained by considering the following factors. So the electrical behavior, which is the important part, because we can control the electrical part, right? So the main consideration here is about the electrical part, and the factors which are responsible are, you should consider the speed torque characteristics. You should also consider speed torque characteristics. You should consider torque versus current characteristics, loss and efficiency, magnetizing current and power factor at various loads in case of AC motors only. Why in case of AC motor? Because DC will not have any power factor, right? So only for AC we have to consider the power factor. Now DC motor, this is the theory part which you have recently known in your 4th semester. You might have remembered also. In a DC motor, torque is proportional to phi Z P into armature current divided by 2 pi by A. So what is phi here? Phi is the flux density, Z is the number of conductors or the conductors, P is the number of poles, I is the armature current, and capital A is your number of parallel path. So as a T is proportional to phi into Ia, because the other factors are constant, that is your 2 pi, Z is the number of conductor which is a constant for a machine. It may be 480, 780. If your student asks her how Z is constant, because it is not a fixed quantity, it can be 960, it can be 720, it can be any number. So for a particular machine, the Z factor is constant. So suppose I will consider a motor whose number of conductors are 480. So after 10 years, the number of conductors of that same machine will be same or different? It will be same for the, so for that machine the factor Z is constant. Now another thing, the P, so the number of poles is also constant for that machine. Similarly the parallel path is also constant. So we have considered 2 pi, Z, P and capital A are constant. Now T is proportional to the square of current in case of series motor. Why? Because phi is proportional to armature current. Now students, this armature current or phi is proportional to armature current. So in the relation, let me show you. Yes. So in this relation, T is equal to phi into Ia. If I will replace this phi by Ia, what will happen? Ia square. So that is the reason why it has been written phi is proportional to Ia in this case. So what will happen? N is equal to E divided by phi Z into 60 A by P RPM, since E is equal to phi Z N by 60 into P by A. So this is the mathematical expression. From there we have just solved for your capital N. What is N here? It is the speed in RPM. Now N is also equal to V minus Ia Ra divided by phi Z into 60 A by P, where V is equal to the supply voltage, Ia is the armature current, Ra is equal to the resistance or armature resistance. So we conclude that N is proportional to V minus Ia Ra divided by phi. Why? Because the other factors are constant. So what are the factors which are constant over here? From this equation, n is equal to v minus IARA divided by phi z into 60a by p. So which factors are constant? From here, this z is constant, a is constant, and p is constant. So in this equation, yes, in this equation, this v minus IARA divided by phi z into 60 a by p. Here z is constant, 60 into a is a constant, p is a constant. So we have got n is equal to v minus IARA divided by phi, which is proportional. So all other quantities being constant. So in a DC shunt motor, what happens? We all know that a shunt motor field is connected in parallel with the armature, right? So what will happen to its equation? The speed current characteristics from the expression above, which we have taken, this expression. So the expression here is this one. So from this expression it is clear that n is equal to v minus IARA divided by phi, right? So what will happen now? It is clear that speed is directly proportional to the back EMF EB and inversely proportional to the flux. Right or wrong? So you can check it out. Speed is proportional to the voltage or the back EMF and is inversely proportional to your flux. So it is what it has been written. So it is clear that speed is directly proportional to the back EMF EB and inversely proportional to the flux phi. But in this case, if the applied voltage V is kept constant, the flux phi will also be constant. So students, try just for a moment, just try to analyze that if this voltage part is kept constant, what will happen? If the voltage is kept constant, the current will be saturated or it will not change its value. If I is fixed, then what will happen? Ultimately your flux factor or the phi factor will be at a constant level. So this is the reason why if V is made constant, then flux will be automatically be at constant. Now when load on the motor is increased, the current in armature increase, thus increasing the voltage drop in armature and hence decreasing the speed of the motor. So here, if the load of the motor, suppose I have a load of 100 watt, for example I am saying, because it may be any number. So if the if the connected load is 100 watt, suddenly I will add another 100 watt load, then what will happen? Now if this kind of load is increased, the current in armature will also increase because the load has been increased. Right or wrong? If the load is increased, current will be increased. This much it is clear. Now what will happen again? If the current is increased, that will result in your increasing voltage drop in armature. That is obvious because there has to be some voltage drop in the armature due to the addition of your wattage or your load, and hence the decreasing of the speed of the motor. So ultimately the speed of the motor will be decreased. As the drop in armature at full load is very small as compared to applied voltage V, therefore drop in speed from no load to full load is again very small. So here, if the armature at full load is very small, if the drop in the armature at full load is very small, suppose you increase the load and you found that the drop is very small, that armature drop, and as compared to your applied voltage, therefore drop in the speed from no load to full load is again very small and the motor can be used as compared to constant speed motor, right? because this kind of motor can be used where constant speed operation is required. Now we can understand by the help of a you can say a diagram. This is the relationship between armature current and speed, that is N versus Ia. This one, the another figure 2.2, it shows you the relation between torque and armature current. So in the first figure, that is figure 2.1, it shows a little bit of drooping characteristics, and in the figure 2.2 it shows you a linear characteristics. See, the line is proportionally rising. So now the second factor, torque current characteristics. Now from the expression for torque, T is proportional to phi into Ia, and your Ia is equal to K into Ia in the case of shunt motor. It is observed that torque varies directly as the load current, and hence the curve follows a linear law as shown in the figure 2.2. Now the third characteristics, that is your speed torque characteristics. In a DC shunt motor, when the supply voltage V is constant, the field flux is also constant. So students, in a DC motor, just try to recall in your DC motor part, when the supply voltage was constant, the flux was also constant, hence the speed of the motor depends upon the armature current. So the speed was ultimately at a constant. The speed decrease with the increase in armature current, but torque also increase with the increase in current. So here, if the current is increased, torque will be decreasing. So torque also increase with the increase in current. So if the current is increased, the torque will also get increased. Hence the torque speed characteristics of a DC shunt motor will be a straight line with a slight droop as shown in the figure 2.3. Right, I will show you the figure 2.3. Yes, this is the speed versus torque curve. You can see there is a slight droop in the graph, this line. Yes, this is the drooping line. Right, now speed torque characteristics. In a DC shunt motor, when the supply voltage V is constant, the field phi is also constant, and hence speed of the motor depends upon the armature current. The speed decreases with the increase in the armature current, but the torque increases with the increase in current. Hence the torque speed characteristics for a DC shunt motor will be a straight line with the help of a slight droop as in the figure which I have shown you now. Now the performance curve. The curve for efficiency, speed, torque and current plotted against VHP of a motor are called performance curve. This or the performance curve for a shunt motor is as in figure 2.4. So there is a performance curve. This curve, this is the performance curve, the 2.4 figure. Let me show you. Yes, this one is your performance curve. Now in this performance curve, it is the curve between your BHP and your torque in Newton omega, or torque, or your speed, or it can be also armature current or percentage of efficiency. Yes. Now, hence it cannot run away when the load is suddenly thrown off. Also there is a slight fall in speed from no load to full load, and hence the motor can be used when a substantial constant speed is required. It is noted from the BHP efficiency curve, that the efficiency of the shunt motor increases rapidly in the beginning and reaches its maximum value and then falls nearly at full load. So it is quite evident from the graph. You can see this efficiency curve. You can also see the armature current IA curve, the speed curve, also the torque curve. So all together will give you the performance curve. Now the efficiency of a shunt motor is maximum when the variable losses are equal to the constant losses. So this is very important, students. It is very it is frequently asked in your semester questions also. At what condition is the efficiency will be maximum? It will be the condition when your variable loss will be equal to your constant losses. The curve for armature current BHP shows that even at zero output, a certain value of current is required to meet the losses occurring in the motor. So, if the load is also nil or zero, then also there is a small value of current drawn by the motor, and this current is drawn so as to meet the losses of the motor. Now, DC series motor. Now we will discuss about your DC series motor. In this motor, the field winding is connected in series with the armature winding, as we have already discussed in your machine subject, energy conversion 1. In DC motors, this DC series motor, your the field coil winding is in series with the armature. So here also the field winding is connected in series with the armature winding. It means as the load of the motor increases, current through the series field winding also increases. So it is quite very easy to understand that if the load increases and the load current increases, the flux will also get increased. So in other words, the flux varies accordingly to the load of the motor, right or not? Because it is connected in series, so it will naturally depend upon the load. If the load current is higher, then the flux will also get to a higher value. The flux phi first increases with the increase in load current and then becomes maximum at a saturation point and finally becomes constant as shown in the figure 2.5. So students, the graph 2.5 shows you current versus flux. In this graph, when the current was increased, what happened? The flux was also increased. Further increase in current resulted in further increase in flux. And after that, what will happen if we will go on increasing the current value? If you will increase the current, then the flux value will get higher and higher. So will this process continue throughout? No, it will attain a certain point which can be called as the saturation point, and at that point only you go on increasing the current, there will be no increase in its flux, right? So yes, so there will be no increase in the flux. Now, so now speed current characteristics. So in this DC series motor, we have now the series motor is best suited for the service where the motor is directly coupled to the load, such as electric trains. So this kind of motors is used in electric trains, and the electric train is the best example for this kind of motor. So in our next class we will discuss the other factors like your speed current characteristics and your torque current characteristics, performance curve of this DC series motor. Then we will discuss about its compound motors and then differential motor. So thank you students for watching.